Okay. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on this LinkedIn Live event today, where we're going to be talking about artificial intelligence evolving impact property operations. And we're going to be exploring some ways that commercial real estate owners can get a vision of where things are now and where they're going to be going in the world of artificial intelligence. My name is Jeri Frank, and I'm co-founder and CEO of STRATAFOLIO. We're a cloud-based software solution focused on that small to mid-market commercial real estate owner. And we designed our product to help our customers save both time and money on managing their portfolio. And as a result of this, we are always looking for opportunities to educate our customer base and save our customers money or make them more money. And so today is all about developing smarter buildings to save money and live better. With that, I have with us Scott Martin, who is a SIOR and a CEO and the president of inteliGlas. inteliGlas is an autonomous smart building platform that enables owners and managers to simultaneously optimize the benefits that matter to all building stakeholders, improve the health and well-being, and prevent and mitigate risks, improve sustainability, and create economic value. It's a mouthful. You guys do a lot of great things.
Very comprehensive.
Yes. So we're really glad to have you here today to talk about inteliGlas. And the format for today, as always, is 20 minutes of discussion followed by 10 minutes of Q&A if we have anything from the audience. So I'm going to start with the very first question, Scott. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah. So let's just start with the first question. What is inteliGlas?
Well, we're a very complex operation. So we're a master systems integrator, an IoT platform that uses centralized data from in buildings and also a bunch of exterior data from outside the building. And so we operate the buildings based upon real demand at the building. So and as you mentioned, it's an autonomous actions, how we do it. So my partner is a software engineer who created remote control and monitoring, so remoting into buildings, picking up the data on the buildings, which a lot of people pick up data, but then actually controlling the data, which is very, very unusual. So inteliGlas actually means intelligent lock. It's a Gaelic for GLAS. Glass means lock. So we actually cyber secure the building as well. And so, we'll get into the nitty gritty of it, but essentially integrating all the systems in the buildings, elevators, access controls. We can even put your STRATAFOLIO, link it into the dashboard, be able to use it that way. So try to future-proof buildings as technologies come and evolve, because all of them are siloed. We try to bring a holistic approach, bring them all together as one.
Very nice. What actually was the catalyst for you developing this product?
Well, as you mentioned, I'm an SIOR, and 5 years ago I was at a conference and I was asked, let's do a panel on how artificial intelligence is going to change the entire world of office. So we had that panel. We brought in the greatest people on blockchaining, and we even had a person from Ireland about digital mapping buildings. And to my dismay, everything is siloed. So that's the problem with the world right now. The buildings are built and engineered for HVAC or elevator or lighting or access controls, even fountains, parking systems. Everything is independent of one another, and it's not pulled together as one. So I always thought, like, boy, this could be like a Jetsons experience. And those of you who understand the Jetsons as a cartoon, why can't the car roll into the parking structure itself, park, and the elevator comes and picks me up. I don't have to push a button. It takes me to my floor. My coffee's made. The air is perfect. All that stuff. So ironically, after doing that, 5 months later, I ran into my partner, Eli Kaiser, and he goes, well, I'm doing these for 600 Superfund sites and landfill sites for the government, where no one wants to drive to the middle of the desert to start up a system or read liquids or what have you. So Eli had really had the backbone of this, of what we were doing already created. And the cybersecurity aspects of it as well, he encrypted, went from device to our edge device at the building is all cryptic. So it's really, really cool that way, so that no one can penetrate these things and infiltrate the building systems, because you hear about that. Target was hacked.
Yes.
So anyways, that was kind of how the idea came about. And it took us a year to develop the product. And then it's been refined over the course of the last several years. And then our messaging has obviously changed because the rhetoric has changed out in the commercial real estate arena. So,
yeah. Well, congratulations for taking the leap, because undertaking a new company and vision and putting that out into the marketplace is no small endeavor. So congratulations to your success. So if you do have an old building out there, since not everything is brand new, how do you take advantage of making that a smart building?
Well, great question. So listen, this is crazy. If you built, every building today was built to a LEED Platinum certification, the carbon footprint would stay at exactly where it's at today. There wouldn't be any increase, there wouldn't be any decrease. It'd just stay the same.
Right.
So the importance of old buildings being retro-commissioned and changed to reduce carbon footprint is very much needed. These old buildings consume about 44% of the power grid in the world, in the U.S. today. Wow. So that's huge. They're the gobbler. And I can tell you, because it's hot outside here in California right now, they're gobbling up a lot of power.
I'm sure.
So the cool thing with old buildings, which we've kind of figured out and kind of tapped into, is the ability to retro-commission these buildings. So each building system speaks a foreign language. So an air conditioning might be in Japanese and German, and an elevator might speak, Spanish, and lighting systems a totally different language. So the idea is to translate all those, put them into a center point, and then actually grab data from outside and make these buildings operate in that fashion. So number one, when we take these old buildings, you need a distinct advantage of installing them. And so the install cost on a 100,000 foot building right now is about $75,000. So it's not completely crazy number. And then we run a hybrid cloud that does all of our AI into it. And so we need to pay for that. So there's a monthly fee associated with it, and it's $2,500 on a 100,000 square foot building. But that's a lot of money. So everybody's like, well, how's the savings and all that work? So our philosophy is, if you can't pay us $1 and we can give you $2 back, then it's not even worth having a discussion. Yeah. So that's the economic philosophy that we have going into these old buildings and retrofitting them, because not all buildings are created equal, obviously, and some are easier than others. But just beyond the savings, it's about a health strategy. So we found in some of the buildings we're creating cleaner air, because we're able to move air where the bodies are in the building and microclimatize the buildings. And also about mitigating risk. So picking up anomalies for engineers to operate their systems and catch things before they fail. That's the thing right now, is everything runs to fail. And then when it fails, then the building's down for a week and everybody's very mad, and they're paying big rents these days. Right. So the expectations of the owners and the tenants and the managers are a lot higher. They're held to higher standards today. So the value creation is way beyond just saving money. There's other things that we can articulate on. So
right. So everything you described to me sounds like making that work environment much more comfortable. So productivity of people in that space will remain high, or at the level that it should, because if temperature spikes or they're unable to use the elevator or whatever, it just creates turmoil for the tenants in that space, and then they're not being they're not getting the job done that they're really there for.
Yeah, yeah. And that's the unique nature of the product, is we're not trying to boil the ocean and go do schools and industrial buildings, retail. We focus really on office buildings, try to stay in that space of medical office and then also laboratories, because we can really get that environment, not only from the air quality perspective, but also from the luminosity of the lighting. And so when you can control lighting, as an example, and you can put lighting in circadian rhythm, there's Harvard business studies that say, boy, the productivity of the employees go up 15%. So right along exactly what you're saying, when you can control lighting and put them in these circadian rhythms internally, that is really, I think it's so awesome.
And that's fascinating. I will be looking into that for my office. All right. So when someone engages with your team, what is that process from beginning to end?
So we can get started with anybody with a simple set of floor plans and a building address. And we'll put together an estimate, usually turned around in 24 hours. And it leads to a bigger discussion of like, okay, it's going to cost $65,000 to put it in your building, and here's what we're going to save. And we do give a range, because we don't really know, but we give a range of the savings. And sometimes it's more and sometimes it's less. But it leads to the economics that everybody wants to have. And if it goes beyond that, then we send our team out to walk a building. So we take $2,500 to do that, because we got to fly them out there and walk the building. That gets applied to the install price in the future. So once we do that, we really, ironically, every time we've done this, the quote is within 5% of the estimate. So it's pretty darn close. And then what we're able to really hone in on is where that range of savings is going to be. So we tighten that up a bit. And so that brings the comfort to everybody. And then from there, it goes into a contract. And typically, we'll start installation 3 weeks later. The beauty of our installation when you're retro-commissioned is it's not disruptive to tenants. It's a 3-day process for a 100,000-foot building. We have a third party that goes and does the installation for us. So that happens very, very quick. And then the commissioning process, which is really where we excel. Our team is amazing. So it used to take, 6 weeks to a month to commission a building and put it all onto a dashboard. We can do that in 7 days to 10 days now. So we can really get it done quick. And that's our magic. And so that's kind of a bit about the process.
Yeah, I can certainly appreciate that. Fine-tuning that process to get a customer in and out and satisfied with the product that you're now offering. Once you've completely installed and commissioned all the equipment, do you then do a training for those people?
We do. We actually have done a couple of training guides. So the platform is built not only for owners and managers, but also tenants and brokers as well. So we've created different training platforms because for the tenant and the brokers, for example, it's a different screen, and it's easy. It's one page. It's simple to use, and the tenant can then feel like they're part of the process as well. Reducing carbon, what's their air quality like, what's the temperature like in the suite, and give them some control. So the idea is, not only are we going to save money, but hopefully the tenants will pay maybe a little bit more money in rent, right? So really increase the NOI. So, and then a lot of people go, well, brokers, why would you have a broker on there? And we found that we could give them the delivered on their cell phone. So when they're actually touring a building, say, here's a vacant space, and show the property off. And that has really turned into some magic. And then so the engineers, we just did a really thorough, very detailed guide. So we tried to teach a lot of the shortcuts and things that we're looking for from an engineering perspective. Because we do need the engineer buy-in on this, because here's the reason why the dashboard that we have is so simple and so easy to use, is because every time someone touches it, it actually trains the artificial intelligence. So a lot of owners are reluctant to have tenants change their temperature, for example. But why do they want to get a hot or cold call? So we can eliminate that, number one. And number two, when they do it, it happens so quick. We know typically where they're at in the building, the time of day, where the sun's positioning coming into the building, because it could be a solar flare or sun hitting a thermostat. And so they're feeling very cold, but it's actually, the sun beating on the thermostat. So our AI will learn those situations, or vice versa, maybe having a big conference room and there's 40 people in a conference room. So there's algorithms that it runs based upon heat output per body, for example. So there's a lot of various things or layers that we pull from. So the importance of having a good training guide, back to your question, is we want that input. We want those engineers to change those set points. And then typically, here's another thing with climate change. In Iowa, you could have a nice cool day at 60 degrees, and the next day it could be 90 degrees outside. So those
true story.
temperatures are a real deal, and they're not going away anytime soon. There's going to be more and more occurrence of that. So if we can understand the set points where the building owner or the engineer wants to have those building set points, and we forecast 40 years of weather, by the way, so we take weather very seriously. And we put a predictive analytic pattern on weather. So that weather can really lead up for the next day. We can prepare the building for the next day, what it's going to be coming. And that ends up in the thermal massing, it ends up in the energy savings, less wear and tear on the equipment. So there's a whole host of things that we bring to the table on that. So that's all from the energy guide.
And that's really powerful. I've been in a number of old buildings, and when you do have those seasonal changes in particular, where you do have 60 degrees one day and 90 degrees the next, and you're kind of going into fall, there's this lag time where people are hitting the thermometer trying to make a change, and they're too cold or they're too hot, and then it's lagging, and then everything's working harder, and then it overcorrects. And so it sounds like this really gives you the opportunity as a building owner to have control over those wild fluctuations.
That's exactly what we're having here in California today. The systems get behind, and they just draw. In fact, we're watching the energy. We manage real-time energy, and we're watching the energy consumption on these units actually go from 200 kilowatt hours to 300 kilowatt hours. It's the same machine. It's just a different day, and it's super. When it's 100 plus degrees out here, on those rooftops, it's over 120 degrees. It's crazy.
It is crazy. So what type of sensors do you actually use with your product?
So in the building, they're very small. They're about the size of a 50-cent piece. And those are positioned usually at 1 per 1,000 square feet in the building. They're a 6-in-1 sensor, so it's lighting. It actually picks up noise, luminosity, temperature, humidity, motion, and everybody's worried about privacy, but none of our things can see. We just pick up motion. And so we know what the activities are on the floor as such of that. We do air quality monitor. That's a big thing for us right now, and when we're actually seeing great improvement of air quality, which kind of was a secondary thought. I knew we were going to do something, but I didn't realize how we've moved the needle by 10 to 15 points on air quality, so it's pretty impressive. That's not by accident. I'm pretty certain of that. So those are typically the sensors that go in. We do have an edge device that goes in the building that creates an opportunity. So if there was, we talk about cybersecurity. So if there was a connection that was severed at the building and it didn't get out to the cloud, we would lose the AI aspects of it, but the building could still operate and run kind of based upon, if you will, the previous day's action. So it kind of uses that intelligence then and there. And so there's not a lot of equipment. We do a lot of work with very little equipment on the site. So so that's a big change for us as well. We used to have cameras and all sorts of things, but we just got away from that. We do occupancy counting. Obviously, that's a big thing as well. So we found a product that we like. It picks up the people that walk right behind one another, so it's very accurate. It's probably the most accurate population counting that we've found to date. So
I love the innovation that you have. So on average, how much does a client save when they implement inteliGlas?
So that's a loaded question because every building.
I understand. Right.
So we're averaging over 31% savings. We're averaging over 30% savings for buildings. We have one building in that has pneumatics, and we only control 3/8 of the building. And I thought, boy, it's kind of a science project. We're saving 20% in that building right now. And that was kind of a real mind blower for us. We took that back to the owner, and he's like, well, I'm going to retrofit the rest of the building so you have total control of the building. And so that's really awesome. So
kudos to you and your team. And those savings that you just described are the true savings that they're seeing on their energy bill, reduction in costs, potentially reduction in staff time to control things. But that doesn't even include if there were some tax credits they could still go after, correct?
So every state has got their own tax credit. So in the state of Washington right now, I think it's $750 million. If you go to green, you can get a tax credit to pay for those capital expenditures. Unlike California and New York, they're going the other way. They pull out the hammer. And so if you're not benchmarking power in California and you have a building over 50,000 square feet, it's $2,000 a day penalty. And that hasn't been really fully exercised, but it's coming. And in New York, it's the same situation. If you're not saving 40% or doing a 40% carbon reduction by 2030, that's going to come out. So our good buddy Joe Biden just signed a nice package for a lot of green capital out there. So that is actually helping people pay for the capital expenditures for greening up buildings. And that's been a big boost for us. That's been a very big boost for us.
Yeah, and just a couple of months ago, we did a LinkedIn Live with another company called Incentifine that is basically a database of all tax credits that are available from the federal, state, local, municipal, utility. So it's another place for people to check out. But I'm sure they're going to be quite busy now after that passed. Can you share? Can you share a recent example of how you've helped one of your clients?
Well, there's been a number of them, and that's all when you go into these buildings, you're always trying to just save money for everybody. That's owners. That's what they always. So the building that we had the 3/8 control in is a building in Florida, and the biggest concern that they had was black mold. And they have one tenant that moved in the building. It's a Fortune 500 company. And they were very concerned about black mold, and so they were doing everything possible to keep that tenant from having a black mold experience. And it comes at a huge expense because you're running the air conditioning all the time, 7 days a week, I might add, when no one's there.
Right.
So we wrote an algorithm for the building so that when the humidity is over 75% and the temperature is over 77 degrees, and if the system's off, it'll go on for an hour and a half and run the air. And so that's one solution that really worked great for somebody. But we're finding there's all sorts of little things that come along. On a tenant side, we one of the buildings we're in just had a national tenant that's got 50 locations, and they're real estate operations persons. We trained them up on the dashboard, and he's like, oh my gosh, I wish every building had this system because I can see what's going on real time in my building. And so those are some of the fun things that are coming about.
Yeah, it's a very rewarding experience when you can deliver quality product to a customer. Is there anything else? Is there anything else you'd like to share about inteliGlas inteliGlas before we sign off for the day?
Well, we've like I said, we're really uber comprehensive platform. So there's values that are seen by each and every individual differently. So, the brokers, I can't even, they're like, well, we're not really sure if it's that helping us out or if it's just the marketplace, but it sure helps. I mean, so that's been fun. Engineering problems that we've come across with, high humidity in certain pockets. Now we've actually learned and watched heat gains and heat losses in buildings. So we actually the artificial intelligence is starting to figure out that. Mm-hmm. So when a system's on, how quickly it might heat up or cool up, and vice versa when it's off. And so we've been kind of fortunate enough how we've grown. We've taken buildings in cold weather, and the Chicago market, for example, where I think in the end of July, the end of January, it was 30 degrees below zero, and then it was 10 degrees below zero, and it was zero, and then it was 30 degrees. It's like, that's pretty amazing. Mm-hmm. So obviously their concerns are having pipes frozen and not bursting. So, but there's a certain degrees, right? So the building, they were cooling it down to 65 degrees. Well, we said, look, you can lower it down to 55 degrees because the building heats up really fast. And so it wasn't until we could kind of demonstrate to them that the loss of, and by the way, the heat loss for 10 degrees was over 8 hours. So the building was very, very thermally, well fit, but it heat up in 40 minutes. 10 degrees, it would move up. So by illustrating that to them, it was, okay, we could save some energy that way.
Yeah. I really love seeing the layering on of technology for all the purposes that we all as entrepreneurs get into this for, to provide a product that saves money, provides value, and it's just exciting to see this all come to life. Thank you so much for being with us today, Scott. I'm going to actually share my screen here, and oops, not that one. And I'm putting Scott's information on the screen here. So in the event anyone wants to contact Scott and talk to them, so that they can talk to you specifically about their situation, they can find your information on the screen here. So feel free to reach out to Scott, and I appreciate everyone's time here on this LinkedIn Live. And I did want to let everyone know that on October 5th, we're going to be meeting with Christopher Kirchvall. And he is going to talk to us about some other exciting building opportunities. So that will come up next month. And until then, we appreciate everyone's time, and stay safe and take care, everyone.